Holidays, Festivals, and Celebrations. President's Day by Trudi Trueit, illustrated by Michelle Dorenkamp. Read aloud by Big Papa Scott. Pride and Presidents. People crowd the sidewalks of Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. A marching band plays Yankee Doodle. Here comes a red, white, and blue float. You're just in time for the President's Day parade. President's Day falls on the third Monday in February. The holiday honors the presidents of the United States, especially George Washington, 1732 to 1799, and Abraham Lincoln, 1809 to 1865. Both of these leaders were born in February. So wave an American flag and join the celebration. Join the parade for President's Day. Did you know the story about George Washington chopping down a cherry tree isn't true? It was made up by a writer. Never give up. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Virginia Colony. As a boy, George dreamed of being a soldier. When he was 21 years old, George joined the Virginia militia. In 1759, George married Martha Custis. They settled on George's Virginia farm called Mount Vernon. Their quiet life didn't last long. George and Martha Washington were farmers in the colonies. The colonies were tired of obeying Great Britain. The colonists wanted to be free and rule themselves. In 1775, British and American soldiers started shooting at each other. The Revolutionary War from 1775 to 1783 had begun. George Washington led the colonial forces into battle. His small continental army was no match for the mighty British. Yet, Washington did not give up. The winter of 1778 was very cold in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. The Continental Army didn't have enough food or supplies. On February 22nd, the troops celebrated General Washington's birthday. He was 46. They played music and sang. It lifted everyone's spirits. In time, Washington's patience and clever battle plans paid off. The colonies won the war. Celebrating General Washington's birthday cheered up the troops. I often say of George Washington that he was one of the few in the whole history of the world who was not carried away by power. That was written by Robert Frost, who is a very famous American poet. Father of his country. At last, the United States was independent. The new nation needed a leader. Again, people turned to Washington. Some wanted to crown him king of the country. Washington said no. The country needed a citizen to guide it, not a king to rule it. In 1789, Washington was chosen to be the first U.S. president. Soon, it became a tradition for American cities to celebrate his birthday. Washington was a kind leader. He was against slavery. He felt land had been wrongly taken from Native Americans. He tried to help them. After 2 terms, 8 years, Washington went home to Virginia. On December 14, 1799, George Washington died at Mount Vernon. The United States lost a brave hero, founding father, and beloved president. President Washington was a fair and kind leader. Honest Abe. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin in Kentucky on February 12, 1809. Young Abe loved reading. One of his favorite books was about George Washington. Abe was bright, funny, and honest. His good character got him elected to the state legislature in 1834. He began speaking out against slavery. In 1842, Abe married Mary Todd. Abraham Lincoln read as many books as he could find. He also said this: "A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free." Abraham Lincoln said that in 1858 during a campaign speech. Abraham Lincoln was the tallest U.S. president. He was 6 feet 4 inches tall, about 1 inch taller than George Washington. In 1860, Lincoln became the 16th President of the United States. By now, the issue of slavery was splitting the nation. The South wanted to withdraw from the United States to form its own country. Lincoln was determined not to let that happen. This led to the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. In 1863, Lincoln freed the slaves, but it took 2 more years for the North to win the war. Lincoln was elected to a second term. On April 14, 1865, he was shot by John Wilkes Booth. Booth supported the South. He was angry about the war. Lincoln died the next morning. Today, Lincoln is remembered as a strong president. He kept the United States together during one of its hardest times. The Civil War was the bloodiest war in U.S. history. The U.S. Civil War lasted from 1861 to 1865. For 4 long years, the war divided the nation. The northern states and the southern states fought each other over the issue of slavery. The war divided families and friends. Thousands of people died. If the North hadn't won the war, the South could have become a separate country and slavery could have continued there. Mount Rushmore in South Dakota is one of the most famous memorials to U.S. presidents. The heads of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt are carved into a granite cliff. Each face is 60 feet tall. A nation celebrates. In 1885, U.S. President Chester Arthur declared Washington's birthday a national holiday. By now, some states were observing Abraham Lincoln's birthday too, though it was never made a U.S. holiday. In 1968, the U.S. Congress moved Washington's birthday celebration to the 3rd Monday in February. It became more commonly known as President's Day, a holiday to honor all presidents. Government offices, banks, and schools close on President's Day. People fly U.S. flags. There are parades, concerts, plays, and fireworks shows. Some people lay wreaths at the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Thousands of people show up to pay their respects at Mount Vernon. It is also tradition for a senator to read George Washington's 1796 farewell address to Congress. The father of his country gave the nation and its people some wise advice. Observe good faith and justice towards all nations. Cultivate peace and harmony with all. Presidents' faces on U.S. money. Washington is on the quarter and the $1 bill. Lincoln is on the penny and the $5 bill. Thomas Jefferson is on the nickel. Franklin Roosevelt is on the dime. Andrew Jackson is on the $20 bill. Presidential Oath of Office. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Now Big Papa Scott is President. No, that's not true. Hail to the Chief. Do you ever wonder what the President does? He or she works with Congress to create laws. The president meets with world leaders to keep peace. The president commands the military in times of war. The United States has had more than 40 presidents. Each one has been different. Thomas Jefferson was born into a rich family. Abraham Lincoln was very poor. Before taking the oath of office, Harry Truman ran a clothing store. Jimmy Carter owned a peanut farm. Ronald Reagan was a movie actor. That is a wonderful thing about the United States. Any citizen who is born in this country can be president. Before becoming president, Jimmy Carter grew peanuts. There are advantages to being elected president. The day after I was elected, I had my high school grades classified top secret. Ronald Reagan, 1911 to 2004. He was the 40th president. The ultimate rulers of our democracy are not a president and senators and congressmen and government officials, but the voters of this country. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 1882 to 1945. He was the 32nd U.S. President. Poetry Corner, a nation's strength. What makes a nation's pillars high and its foundations strong? What makes its mighty to defy the foes that round it throng? Brave men who work while others sleep, who dare while others fly. They build a nation's pillars deep and lift them to the sky. Ralph Waldo Emerson, 1803 to 1882. He was a very famous American poet. Praise for a nation. My country owes me nothing. It gave me, as it gives every boy and girl, a chance. It gave me schooling, independence of action, opportunity for service and honor. In no other land could a boy from a country village, without inheritance or influential friends, look forward with unbound hope. Herbert Hoover, 1874 to 1964. He was the 31st U.S. President. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, beat any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty. That was said by John F. Kennedy, 1917 to 1963. He was our 35th U.S. President. Anytime the President attends an important event, the song Hail to the Chief is played in his or her honor. The tradition began in the early 1800s. The song is also played at the President's funeral. Songs of President's Day. Hail to the Chief. Hail to the Chief we have chosen for our nation. Hail to the Chief. We salute him, one and all. Hail to the Chief, as we pledge cooperation in proud fulfillment of a great, noble call. Yours is the aim to make this grand country grander. This you will do. That's our strong, firm belief. Hail to the one we selected as commander. Hail to the President. Hail to the Chief. And here's the song Yankee Doodle Dandy. Father and I went down to camp along with Captain Gooding, and there we saw the men and boys as thick as hasty pudding. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle Dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. There was Captain Washington upon a slapping stallion, giving orders to his men. I guess there was a million. Here's My Country 'Tis of Thee, which you may say at class sometimes. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside let freedom ring. My native country, thee, land of the noble free, thy name I love. I love thy rocks and rills, thy woods and temple hills. My heart with rapture thrills like the above. Words by Samuel Francis Smith in 1808, from 1808 to 1895. He was a minister. He wrote that. Joining in the spirit of President's Day. Imagine that you are the President of the United States. Make a list of some of the things you would work to accomplish. What would you change? How would you do it? Who is your favorite president and why? Write a poem or song in his honor. Ask a parent or grandparent about a president they remember from their childhood. What was America like when they were young? What challenges did the nation have to overcome? Write a thank you letter to the President of the United States. Send it to the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, NW, Washington, D.C. 20500. Go to a President's Day parade, concert, or play and have fun. The end. If you enjoyed the book, please subscribe. Hit the like button too. There's some gifts in the description. Please donate at patreon.com/BigPapaScott or at PayPal at the address below.